fasting. We did fast for 67 hours. I didn't think it was going to be that long. I thought 3 days were going to be 36 hours for some reason in my head.
I just look how people lived in the past, and it's like, okay, they probably didn't eat so often.
You're investing so much in your business. You're putting all this time, all this effort. You're investing long term. But then what about your health?
I thought it was, like the government or pretty much health experts that were, pushing that food pyramid. But when you look at it, it's actually the USDA. I think it's the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Driven. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about health.
Because health affects all aspects of your life, from career, business, relationships, family, everything that you do. Your health at some point will affect will affect your life.
And just a disclaimer, this is all anecdotal experience. We're not professionals. If you are going to try anything, diet-wise or, healthy exercising, we would suggest to consult a professional. Again, this is all anecdotal experience.
Yeah, and so pretty much how is it that we just got into it health-wise? Because I know before this last week or so, we were eating bad.
Yeah.
And I mean Burger King, Carl's Jr., Raising Cane's Chicken, the occasional Chipotle. Pretty much our diet consisted of just, fast food, processed carbs, fats,
yep.
And, the saturated fats, which aren't necessarily bad. Mm-hmm. But I know we were eating, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I used to eat a lot of sweets. Like ice cream and stuff like that. And I know you probably used to eat other stuff too.
Yeah, I used to eat a lot of bad stuff. But I think before that, I think it's important to note that we used to be really active. We used to be really healthy. I know during high school, we used to play soccer every day after school, during school. And, I think at that point, that was when we were at our fittest, our leanest. We were at our strongest.
Yep.
So I think that's something to know. But I think as time went by, we got a little bit too comfortable. There wasn't really much to prove, or I don't know if that's the word, much to prove, but I know we got comfortable.
Yep.
And so as the years went by, we stopped tracking our diet. We stopped tracking what we eat. We were, indulging a little bit more. I know something that's also important is that stuck to us from high school is that we never drank our calories again.
Yeah, that's one thing that stuck for sure, because I think it was on YouTube that I saw this guy. I forgot who exactly it was, but pretty much that we don't drink our calories because instead of drinking them, you could I feel like you could enjoy more while eating it.
That's just how we've been doing. But I think one of the things that, at least for me, that started changing, or not changing, but started kind of putting my attention to okay, maybe this is a problem, is I know I started watching a lot of videos just randomly, and people throwing out their experience. Again, it's anecdotal experience, but they would say they started getting health problems. They started getting diabetes, type 2 diabetes. They started getting high cholesterol. They started getting overweight. They've been trying to lose weight, but they couldn't. And I know going through that, a lot of the things that they had in common is that they were eating high carbs. They were eating a lot of sugars. They were drinking a lot of soda, a lot of juices. Mm-hmm. So it was that the carbohydrates, the sugars that, they were indulging in excess. So that's one of the problems. And I know I kind of I was bringing it to your attention.
Yeah, I remember you were mentioning all those, pretty much what it could do in terms of how could it affect people. And I know, but it's because we were just eating it.
Yeah.
We were, pretty much eating high sugar, carbs, fat. We were just eating it. And I think because it didn't affect, at least for example, that's the way that I thought. Because it didn't affect me, I'm I don't need to put much attention to it. But yeah, so that's.
I think also because it's so easy. It's just you go to the store, you could get a cookie, you could buy a bread. Especially in the Hispanic culture, conchas,
yep,
pan dulce. It's very accessible. So it's very easy to overindulge. And with that, I'm not an expert, but some of the research I've been doing is you getting your carbs, you're getting sugars consistently, every hour. You're snacking every hour, every 2 hours, every 3 hours. You don't give your body enough time to bring down the insulin level. So I think that's one of the problems why that I've also been seeing, that a lot of the problems that people have is because of their insulin hormones.
Mm-hmm.
So like, like because we eat constantly, we don't give our body time to rest, and like it's just always gonna be up, up, up. And with that, because your insulin levels are always gonna be high, it's gonna be, your body's just gonna try to use the fat. I mean, try to use like the outside food as energy instead of using your fat reserves. So that's how people start getting problems. That's how people start getting overweight.
Yeah, because then I also look at the past, how we used to live. In the nomad ages, where pretty much we didn't have food like every like 4 hours, 5 hours. How like 3 meals a day. I don't think like that's how it used to work. It's pretty much once you're out for the hunt.
Mm-hmm.
You get something and then you eat it. A big like you could say a feast.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like you're eating throughout the day. And so I look at that, and then so it kind of like, so I see that, and it's kind of like, huh. And then the people evolved for that.
Yep.
And that hasn't been like since too long ago.
Yep.
A few thousand years. Until like the agriculture came.
Yep.
But and so like I don't think we're gonna evolve that quickly. Yep. Especially now. Yeah. And it's just like I could get into a lot of stuff, but I just look how people lived in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, they probably didn't eat so often.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't eat, like all the time carbs. What I see that they ate was, animal products or animal food, and fruits, the veggies, roots, and so that's pretty much what they ate. And they lived. I feel like they were pretty healthy. Now one could say that they had a lower age expectation, but then I think there's also other factors like sanitary. They had shelter. They don't have as, or now we don't have as much what do you call it, like predators.
Yep.
Or any predators actually. And so like there's different factors, but like I think back then, if you just look at the health of people in terms of like just eating wise, I think they were super healthy back then.
And then also something they didn't have back then, it's all the processed foods, all the chemicals, all the refined sugars. And that's also something I've been, like with the videos popping up that I've been watching. I know like I've been very conscious about, what we drink or what we eat, like them having dyes. I know like the red 40 is very common. It's very mentioned, the blue 5, and then I think the yellow like 10, or I don't know. But it's the dyes. I know like they've been linked to having, like kind of like messing with your nervous system. And, like, so that's one, the dyes. The other one is the refined sugars. I know we're eating more and more sugars, and then I know we're also being pushed to eat a lot of carbohydrates. Because I'm pretty sure like remember when we went to the
nutritionist?
The nutritionist, and they had a food pyramid on the wall of the poster.
So I remember it vividly, because I think I was the one that was overweight, right? Yeah, and so they sent us they sent both of us to the nutritionist, and I remember they had the food pyramid there, and like it had grains, like pretty much just carbs at the very bottom, as the base for your diet, and then they had veggies, fruits, then I think it was dairy, and then it was meats, and then it was fats at the top. Yep. So I remember that's how it was structured. But now looking at it, it's like I thought it was like the government or pretty much health experts that were pushing that food pyramid. But when you look at it, it's actually the USDA. I think it's the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which Department of Agriculture. I feel like they have an interest in what they put out. Yeah. Like for example, like I don't think they would put grains at the very to eat the least. Yep. Since they have a vested interest in agriculture. Yep. And so I think that's one of the when I saw that, or when I realized that, I'm like, huh, yeah, like it doesn't make sense. Like, oh, they have a vested interest, and yeah. So a lot of the things now that I see when it comes to like food advice, or I take it with a grain of salt. Yep. Because then I try to think of like, okay, who's kind of behind that? Yep. Who's behind that study? Who's behind what they're pushing out? And so I tend to be a lot more skeptical. And so I guess I base my things off of how we used to live in the past. Mm-hmm. And that's how at least now, because I know before we just didn't care and just used to eat anything. But that's what I try now to, at least in the way, think. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, this is maybe something that's good to eat or not to eat in a way. Yep. Yeah, but I guess going back to the nutritionist. Yep. I remember.
Yeah, that's what we saw, and like that's how I'm pretty sure like a lot of people grew up with the food pyramid. Like you always have to eat your your grains, your rice, your beans and whatnot. So that's how a lot of people grew, and which I also get, because it's a lot less expensive to buy like a pound of rice
Yep.
than it is to buy a pound of meat.
Yep.
So I do get it at that point, but then it's like when you're pushing that, like to be healthy overall, you have to eat a lot of grains, a lot of bread, a lot of rice, a lot of whole grains, and then like everything else at the top, like with meat being at the very top.
Yeah.
I think it should be lower. I think that should be a good portion of your meal. But like with that, you're through as time goes by, through generations, you're gonna be continuing to kind of have that same mindset of, okay, like if you're gonna eat meat, you gotta have your arroz, you gotta have your rice with it, you gotta have your bread, you gotta have your tortillas. So I think that's how a lot of people are accustomed to, and I know it's very hard to get out of.
Let me reiterate again that we're not experts. We're just talking about what we've seen, what we've read, and our personal experiences.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of the things we're saying is like we're saying it as if it's a fact, but it's just our experiences and
Yep.
Anecdotal.
Yeah. Because going off that, I know I gained a lot of weight. I think I'm actually like 35 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
Because like right now I weigh 175, and then like I think at a good level, a good weight, I could get down to 140, 145, 145. Let's say 145. So that's 30 pounds overweight. And I know in 2021 I went to go get a regular physical exam. They did blood work and everything, and during that exam I did have pre-diabetes. But it was like they did it through a scale. So the way they did the scale was they did like let's just say 3.5 to like 5.6, you're good. And then 5.7 to like 6.2, you're pre-diabetic, and then everything after, you're diabetic. So like I was at the cusp. I was 5.7. If I had 1 point less, then I would have been normal.
Right.
So that's what I got. So like with that, it's just those were my things. Being overweight, and then finding out through the blood work that I was pre-diabetic. It's kind of like, man, I gotta do something. But then I think it goes back to like we're so programmed to eat the good stuff, eat the breads, eat the pastas, eat the carbs. I mean, that's something I do. Like, from time to time I eat chips. From time to time I eat pasta. I eat a lot of fries. So like, throughout the time it accumulated of, throughout the years since high school, just eating pure pastas, eating, like the sugars, eating cake, eating sweets, eating chocolate. It just accumulated to now.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think mitigated us from going like really bad in health was exercise, because I think we've always worked out. I mean, not recently, but we've done a lot of cardio, running and whatnot, and so I think that's something that mitigated any further like health like complications or anything bad in terms of health.
And just to note that the pre-diabetic is reversible, but I think even then it's like, even if you get to that extreme, from what I've seen, again, it's all anecdotal experience, but you could just bring it back to like a good balance for your body. And that's with that cutting out the sugars, cutting out the carbs.
And so with that, I think we could segment of our experiences, or pretty much like why we even decided to like go on let's say a fast, and then what we're choosing to eat moving forward.
So I know why we made that switch. It was a good portion was because you also wanted to do it.
Yeah,
I know you had your reasons, but I know like I brought it up to you like a couple of times, like, hey, like I'm looking at these videos, these guys are fasting, they're having a lot of benefits, like a lot of the issues that they had, they're going away, let's we should try it. And I kept telling you, like, I'm like, we should try, and you're like, why?
And one of the reasons why is just because the food was so good.
Yeah,
like it was good. I'm like, dude, I don't feel anything, I feel good. And that's what I thought I felt.
Yeah.
I feel good. Like I don't feel like any aches or pains. So like, why, kind of thing. And that was my mentality. Like, why are we gonna try it? I feel like, I think you feel good. I feel good. So like, why even try?
Yeah.
But then that kind of like changed. I know 2 months ago you and I both had like a stomach flu or what was something like we had. I don't know what you call it, but let's just say it was a stomach issues, whatnot. And I remember for me, like it lasted only like a day and a half, 2 days, but then for you it was a little bit longer.
Yeah, so I remember that. For myself, it lasted roughly around a month and a half, and with that, it was the first week it was a lot of pain in my stomach. It was a lot of cramps, a lot of pressure, and I would have to use the restroom every hour, and that lasted for like a whole week. I know like the first 3-4 days it was the worst. Like it was just constant. But then like little by little, like it got better as the days went by. And after that week, it was just I was a little bit better. And with that, I lost my appetite completely. I did not want to eat. I was still eating, but I did not want to eat. And then the second week goes by, and I still have cramps from time to time, but they're probably like once or twice a day. And I would still like, I wouldn't have to use the restroom, but I would have the urge to use the restroom. And so that was the second week. And then the third, fourth, fifth week, like I still didn't have my full appetite. And having to go to the restroom, it was irregular for myself. And so that lasted until like a month and a half. I know for yours, you said like it was 1 or 2 days, but for me, it lasted a month.
Yeah. So we had it pretty much at the exact same time,
Yep.
exact same day, and whatnot. And so I remember like it was on a Sunday. Like when I started having that, it was throughout the day. I started feeling like a little bit like
Yep.
more fatigue, a little bit like weaker, and like not fully there. And so like as the day progressed towards the night, I started feeling it. Like I started feeling stomach pains. And so I remember, like I started feeling stomach pains. And then like that night, I was feeling like cramps. Like I would imagine, I mean, I don't know how like women feel, but how some women, feel like cramps. It was like intense. Like it was like if someone was just grabbing like your intestines, your stomach, and it was just like twisting it. And so it felt bad. That night, pretty much every half hour to an hour, I was waking up and going to use the restroom. And at that point, I did have the diarrhea also. And so that day, I only slept like 3 hours. Like it was that bad. It was intense for me. And then the next day, I woke up feeling a little bit better. And so like it didn't, like I had every so often, those cramps, but it didn't really like hurt anymore. And and then throughout the day it got better. And then on Tuesday I wasn't 100%, but pretty much I would say like I felt normal, just with the every so often pains and whatnot. But yeah, and then the next day after that, Wednesday, it was pretty much almost all good. Granted, I did not have a lot of appetite also. And then but yeah, so it cleared up relatively quickly. And so that was pretty much the same time that you got the same stomach ache or flu.
Yeah, and I think it was a stomach bug or something, because I think it happened to my wife too. She had that too.
And then it happened to my son too.
So it was a stomach bug. And that was what, like 3 months ago, 2 months ago.
I want to say it's like 3 months, because in the last 3 months we've kind of been having like a weird like health, not issues, but like the stomach flu. Then it was COVID. And then at least for me, it was I don't know if it's a stomach flu or what it is, but it's a stomach issue, not issues, but like I think it's like I think it is the stomach flu, because that's one of the things that I kind of did my quick research on because my son has had also like 2 stomach flus or whatnot. It's the rotavirus and then the norovirus, and I think I just had one and the other. So within this past 3 months, it's been like that's interesting.
Yeah, it was all of a sudden, because we've always been healthy. We've always like, we didn't have like too many issues, and then it was all of a sudden, it was just like something changed.
Yeah, because like let's say aside from these past 3 months, before then, like in the last 10 years, we've only been sick like in terms of like like flu, cold, or any like stomach issues or anything like that. Like what, at least one, I mean at most once a year. There's I remember for me there was a period like 3-4 years that I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I didn't have a cold, I didn't have the flu, I didn't have anything.
For myself, it was the last 4 years. The only time I got sick was COVID in the last 4 years.
Yep. And so it's interesting. And then maybe, and then diet might play a huge factor, because then if you also notice it, is that when we started having those issues is when we just started eating out. 100%. And so that's something interesting to look at.
I know the second time around when you had that stomach bug, it's what I had in the beginning.
Yeah, and so kind of like hearing your symptoms, I pretty much had the exact same thing. The first week it was the exact same way, and then it was getting better as the week passed. But then I messed up over the weekend because I just indulged myself. Cake, sweets, pupusas, like everything you could think of, and not just in small quantities, in large quantities. And then I also was drinking soda, and so that didn't help.
Yeah, and I think a part of it was because it was my birthday, so that's why we got all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember you're like, "Oh, it's only one day."
Yep. And so and that's what I look at. I'm like, I think more than anything was the cake. Because it was on, I think, Tuesday that I started feeling it worse, kind of like if it was, it had just barely started. But yeah, that second time or pretty much, just, recently within the last week, 2 weeks, it's just like, not just annoying, it's painful, but it's like, it's to a point. I could see why some people, they call off work or they, don't want to do anything, because it to a point it can be debilitating, always wanting to use the restroom, or when you're out and about and you have that urge, you're like, it kind of like forces you to stop and just hold it, and then just like, oh, come, like, is this actually like, do I want to use the restroom, or is this just a pain? And then, and then it stops and it subsides, and then you go to the restroom, and so like it to a point, it's a, like I felt it like it's to a point it's debilitating. So I'm like, I don't want this anymore. And so I think that's when I pushed for you to say, hey dude, it kind of like that's when we started talking more about like the fasting health, kind of some things that maybe we might want to change.
Yeah, because I think both of us had to be on the same page for us to like 100% commit or take action. Because I remember the first time around, I told you, I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago, I told you, you know what, I'm just gonna like, I think I'm gonna fast, and I'm gonna fast for this day. But then you're like, damn, but we're gonna get canes, and I'm like, fuck, okay. So I know it was kind of like the reason why back then I didn't do it is because of the food. It was like, it's so good to just give it up, and I think it is an addiction. Food is an addiction.
Yeah, because I mean, just I guess well, when we were fasting, which we'll talk about, you weren't really hungry. But you wanted to eat like canes, you wanted to eat those, but you weren't like hungry. No, it was just how would you describe that?
We're gonna get more into it, but it was mental. It was like, I'm so used to like eating every so often. I know, like in the morning I would have my protein shake, and then I would eat, like a few hours later we would go eat a cookie, we would get pizza, we would go get a soda. And then after that, it's the lunch, and then we get home. And then, when I get home, there's snacks, there's, chips, there's sweets. So, like, I'm so used to eating it that, like, I wanted something in my mouth. Like, I wanted that flavor. I wanted that good stuff, even though I wasn't hungry.
Yep.
But, just to move from that, I know we decided to do that, no? Like, that Tuesday?
The fasting, yeah.
Yep.
The fasting, yeah, because it got to a point where I'm like, dude, it's just, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, I feel terrible. And not like, like my whole body, but it's just that feeling of like that pressure, that pain. Of just like, I don't want this anymore. And I know if you mentioned fasting, and then, in my head, I thought, okay, so like if I don't have, like, if food isn't coming in, then there is really nothing for the stomach to kind of like, and so that was kind of like the way I was thinking, in a way that I was thinking. And so I'm like, I'm more than down to pretty much try anything to, get rid of this. And because going to the Kaiser or the doctor, like, I have to wait like a month or so to get an appointment, and then I just message the doctor and they have yet to reply. And so I think it's a very inefficient. So I'm like, you know what, I want to try anything that that I can to kind of like help alleviate, like, at least this moment, alleviate this, and then just fix the issues that I have, like, my bowel movements, I think, because I don't have the best bowel movements, and so like maybe it could help with that too. And so I was more than down to try the fasting.
And I think at that point you also did your research, no? Because before I would tell you and you're like, well, why? Where's the proof? Like, where's the evidence? And I would tell you, but then now you're like, okay, let me go into it and let's see the benefits of fasting. And
there's quite a few. Like, I know it helps with inflammation, and then I know, like, because you're fasting, your body isn't taking in like food, and so it pretty much has to use your body in order to continue running. Like, it starts using your fats, and then it also starts using some of the cells that are inefficient or bad, and it starts using those. And so, like, I mean, I don't know if we just want to get into it, because I know it kind of had a lot of benefits to you.
So with that, I know we fasted for 67 hours.
Total 67 hours.
Total 67 hours. So we started Tuesday at 5. That was our last dinner. And then, we went all the way till Friday lunchtime, which was around 12.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we talk about, like, how the first 24 hours went?
I think the first day, it was like, it's because also why I think it was kind of somewhat easy for us is because we also tend to like fast, like not on purpose.
Yeah.
Like at least for me, like I go like I eat, dinner like around 5 or 6, and then I pretty much don't eat until like 1 the next day.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was
so yeah, we're used to it. And then sometimes like when we're really busy, we're working, we just completely skip lunch, or we take it like until 2 or 3 or until we get home.
And so the first day, that first day, it wasn't that difficult.
No.
But it's like later on in the day, it's that day, yeah, that's when I think I felt the most hungry, because later in the day, like I started getting hungry, like I started wanting eating like stuff. And so I remember like the food smelled good, and so that's when I was hungry.
Yeah, it's when you get home and that there's food cooked.
Yep.
And then it's like right in front of you, like the temptation, and then you get hungry. Your stomach starts rumbling.
Yep.
I know like the first day my stomach was rumbling a lot.
Yeah.
Throughout the day. And it was more when I got home.
Yep.
But I think the easiest way to, like push through that is just to eat, sleep, go to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
And then going to the following day, I know it was the same thing because we're so used to eating until 1 that we waited until 1. And it was easy. I think also we were distracted. We were continuously working. We were constantly working, that it was easy.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was pretty easy too. Like I think for me, there was just some like here and there some bouts of like just small hunger, like small rumbling, but it wasn't like, oh, I want to eat. But that second day was I would say pretty easy too, no?
Yeah. And then one thing to know for myself, when I woke up that second day, I think it was already around like 34 hours that I was fasting. I woke up, I don't want to say with a headache, but it was kind of like a little bit of pressure, but it wasn't painful. It was just like, like kind of like you're dizzy. But it went away like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, and I think it's just because your body's so used to consuming food that when you don't, it's just, like it causes those kind of things. Yeah. And so, yeah. But that second day was, what was it? Thursday?
Wednesday?
Wait. Yeah, it was Thursday, yeah. Yeah, it was also like not too bad.
No, it wasn't bad. And then we were still drinking water throughout. That's something, like we were still drinking water. We were only fasting with food, any type of food.
Yeah, so pretty much just a water only.
Yeah, water only fast. And I know like during that time, or like around lunchtime, I was telling you like, oh, I feel sore. I feel dizzy. I feel lightheaded. And which I think those are some common
symptoms when you fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I remember you were telling me that. And yeah, you were telling me that. I remember like we were in the break room. Yeah, you were telling me that. Which, is some of the symptoms that I did read when
Yeah,
fasting.
but then, once we came to the break room, we were just chilling, sitting down. After that, I felt good. I think I just needed that rest because, we were working like continuously nonstop until 1. So just with that rest, like I felt great after. I felt great.
Yeah. Yeah. And so pretty much that was the second day.
Yeah.
And then, as the day progressed, like I didn't feel hungry. Like those cravings that of food, like nothing really, like I wasn't craving anything. Like I thought of like, like sweets, fruits, whatever. Like I don't want to eat that. Like I'm not hungry, and I don't want, like I don't crave it. Like ice cream, like which I tend to eat a lot. I'm not craving it, and so that's also something that I did observe that second day.
Yeah, for me it was a little different. I wasn't hungry, but my brain was pretty much telling my body like, you should probably eat sweets, or you should probably eat like I wanted a hamburger. Remember we were gonna break the fast that Thursday, the 48 hours.
Yeah.
And then but we're like, no, I was planning to do it until like the next day, Friday, to make like 60 hours or whatever. And I remember you were telling me like, okay, you wanted to break your fast with broth.
Yeah, with broth, it's because like it goes to like, because I also saw a Jordan Peterson podcast with Joe Rogan, and he was talking about the diet that he went on, and so in short, he only eats like meat. But if he eats something else, he starts consuming something else that is not like red meat, then his body just like it doesn't take it well. And so that's one of the fears that I did have, that if coming from a fast, I started eating like random stuff or a lot of stuff that wasn't good, that I might have that, like those sudden, because it did improve. That's one of the things that my bowel movements and the pain that I was having, it did improve. But eating other stuff, I don't want it to just go back and then just have this like rush of just pain and then needing to use the restroom. So that's why I'm like, broth, it's in a sense water and like the broth, pretty much from like either beef broth, chicken broth, like kind of like the what gets dissolved into the water.
And you were telling me like you should probably do the same thing. But in my head, like, I didn't want that. Like, even though I know that was healthy for me, I wanted like a hamburger. I wanted like something good, like Cane's or like what we were used to, Carl's, Burger King. So I wanted that. And I know that followed up to the Friday. Remember I was telling you like we were parked at Target and we're like, we should probably get nuts for later. But in my head I'm like, well, we probably shouldn't, because it's gonna be in front of me and I'm gonna want to eat it. I wasn't hungry. It's just my mentality was like, I'm so used to having something good, tasting good, that I wanted to eat it, even though I wasn't hungry, because my stomach wasn't rumbling. I was good.
And so then when you said that, I'm like, that you didn't want broth or anything like healthy per se, you just wanted that. I'm like, you're not healthy. I mean, not healthy, you're not hungry, you're just craving stuff. Because like if you were really hungry, like kind of like how Hormozy told that one guy in another podcast, that once like a dry chicken breast starts sounding good and you want to eat them, at that point maybe you're hungry, because then it's so dry and it's so like plain and bland. Maybe at that point that's when you're hungry. But if you're craving like chips, burgers, and you're saying like, oh, I'm hungry, but then you want to eat like all those other stuff, and like chicken breast doesn't sound good, then you're probably not hungry. And so that's kind of like pretty much where you're like, I told him like, I don't think you're hungry.
And I wasn't. I think it was more, and that's why I say that I think food is a drug. Like consistently overeating, it's a drug, because like you're so used to eating that you want more. And I'm not sure how having a real addiction feels like, but that's why I keep saying that I think food is it can be an addiction.
And so with that was the second day, right?
Second day.
And then I think moving towards the third day, like for me, I wasn't hungry at all. Like I wasn't craving anything. And I think also because my stomach had shrunk. And so like thinking of eating, I'm like, at most I just want to eat a little bit. Because like I wasn't hungry at all. I wasn't craving anything. I was feeling good. I was feeling good. Like, granted, one of the things that I did see is I was a little bit more fatigued, but that's I think because it was the just the lack of glucose or glycogen in the muscles and whatnot. And so when I worked out, I did feel that. I feel that fatigued and whatnot. But that's pretty much as far as it goes. And so that was the third day. I didn't feel hungry. And I could have even gone another day, I think, of fasting. But that's how I felt the third day. I don't know how you felt.
That day when I woke up, I know a lot of people say, when they wake up after, a couple of days of fasting, they just jump out of bed. For me, it was normal. I wake up, like it takes me like 2 or 3 minutes to get up. So it was the same. But coming in to the warehouse to work out, I did notice something. It's usually and that day was back day, a pull day. So like I worked out back, pull-ups, rows. So one thing I did notice is, like prior to that, I used to have back pain on my lower left side. It wasn't right in the middle, but it was like towards the left, kind of like where your lonjas are at. I would have back pain, and like because having that back pain, like I stopped doing some exercises. I would take like weeks off from working out just to like let it so it won't be aggravated more, and just to let it rest. But I remember doing the rows, like I would feel like some pressure, before the fast. Like I would feel constant pressure, but it wasn't painful. It was just some pressure. But that third day, that Friday, doing those rows, I didn't feel anything. And I think more than anything, maybe my back was inflamed. It had inflammation. And you know how like some of the benefits of fasting is it removes inflammation. So I didn't have that. So that was one of the benefits for me. And then throughout the whole day, I wasn't hungry like at all. I still wanted mentally I still wanted food, but like I wasn't hungry and I felt good.
And so and then pretty much that day we went ahead and ate panda, but it was kind of like the semi-healthy-ish stuff, like the teriyaki chicken, which is pretty much just grilled chicken, and
Broccoli beef.
broccoli beef.
Yep.
And veggies. And granted, they did have a lot of like sauces and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's what we ate. And then later on, it was In and Out.
In and out. We got the 4x4, but it was protein style. So no buns, no fries, no soda.
Yeah. And up until now, I feel good.
Yeah. Right now I'm a little hungry, but.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I've noticed too. Like I ate, like after the panda, I wasn't hungry. When I got home and had the In and Out, I wasn't hungry. But as I was eating, like, oh shit, like and so I just started eating. I'm like, this is good.
Yeah.
And then I woke up in the morning. Like I didn't wake up hungry because I don't tend to wake up hungry unless I have a huge meal the day before. And so I didn't wake up. So I didn't wake up hungry. And like, I did. But later on, or kind of like a few, half hour later, like I kind of did start feeling a little bit hungry.
That's pretty much our experience with the fasting. We did fast for 67 hours. I didn't think it was going to be that long. I thought 3 days were going to be 36 hours for some reason in my head.
I think 12 hours, 12, 24, 36.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get confused with that too a lot.
Yeah, that's why I was pushing for the 3 days. But then when I found out it was going to be 67 hours, I'm like, fuck, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Because originally I thought it was going to be 36 hours for 3 days.
Yep.
But yeah, that was our experience with the fasting. Anything else you want to?
Yeah, and I think, so that's something that we tried, and that's something that, worked. It helped us a lot in certain aspects of our health.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also look at it, and in that time period, we probably lost 2 pounds of fat.
Yeah.
And so I know with fasting also, like, it helps with weight loss.
Yeah. Because, you've noticed myself, like, my gut, like, that's where I store the fat the most. Like it isn't in my arms, it isn't in my legs, it isn't in my face. It's like everything is like right in my midsection, my lonjas, my stomach. I look like I have a beer belly. Like, I could be pregnant. Yeah. Not that I'm pregnant, but stupid. But yeah, that's something like with the fast, like it trimmed down my stomach a lot, because like after I ate, I would be bloated like a lot, and so like it would look like a sphere, kind of like a legit sphere.
Yeah.
So imagine like 35 pounds of excess weight, of excess fat, just like all around my midsection. But with the fasting, I noticed like I still have it, but like it's a lot less. Like I'm not bloated, so that's one of the benefits, at least for myself.
Yeah.
And I know that's something we're still going to continue doing, the fasting. I know I brought it up to you, like maybe we should fast once a week, every week, just 24 hours.
Yeah.
And then maybe once a month, do it for like 2 days, 48 hours. Or again, the 60 hours, 67 hours.
Yeah.
We could always do that. And it's just, if we had all those benefits from just one time of fasting, imagine if we, give our body rest, give our digestive system rest, if, like we stop cutting out the sugars, if we stop cutting out the carbs, how would that look like long term? And I know that's something we're going to continue doing.
Yeah.
But with that, I know if someone's listening or watching, they may want to start fasting. Like, is there any recommendations? And how we mentioned, we're not professionals. If you are going to do something health-wise, diet-wise, then, like seek professional help. Seek your doctor or whatnot to kind of like keep an eye on you if you do want to try that. So that's something I do want to put out there. We're not professionals. It's just all anecdotal experience.
Yeah.
But at least for ourselves, like, do you have any tips?
At least for me, like, yeah, like you mentioned, like, seek, not expert advice, because, a lot of the times doctors aren't experts in, the nutrition field.
Yeah, but they have their medical license. So.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but I digress. But at least, check with, you could say experts.
At least for myself, one thing also to know is that fasting isn't for everyone, because I know if you have like type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes, you still have to eat. So like if you fast, there's a good chance your blood sugar is going to go down really low. So maybe there's other alternatives, kind of like, I don't know the alternatives, but maybe fasting isn't for everyone, and it probably isn't for everyone.
Yeah, because then it also, for a lot of people, it takes a lot of mental willpower.
Yeah.
Because some people are so used to eating like every few hours, snacking. And so I know for those type of people, it's going to be a lot harder. Like the first day, the first 2 days, it's going to be like super hard. Because like for like how I mentioned, like it was relative. The reason why it was pretty easy for us is because we were already tended to fast, like not on purpose, like 18 hours a day. And so that's why it was kind of easy-ish for us. But yeah.
Yeah, and then another thing, it's how you mentioned, it may not be easier for a lot of people, like having that just willpower to like just they see food in front of them to cut it out. So one thing I would recommend is just, if you're gonna do a fasting, hide like the junk food, hide the sugars, hide the sweets, hide everything. That way you're not tempted to eat it. Cause I know it's like, oh, it's just one bite. Oh,
Yeah.
it's just a lick, just to have it in my mouth and I'll spit it out. But then you start eating, you're like, whoop, I already broke it, so like might as well eat it.
Yeah, and then I know when that happens, like you even get a taste of it, your body assumes that you're gonna start eating, and so like that's one of the things that I have noticed when like in the fast, like when I'm making my son's milk, like to test the temperature, I kind of like spray it and then lick it, and so like I kind of tasted like the milk, and so and then just with a simple taste, it was like a few drops, like my stomach just started like going, like it started rumbling, it started like, and so I'm like, oh, like not that I was hungry, but I felt like, okay, like it assumes that I'm gonna start eating, and so that's also one of the things that like you mentioned, like try to get rid of that environment.
Yep.
Or get yourself out of that environment when you are fasting, because it does make things a lot harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier to remove yourself from the environment to like have the willpower for 24 hours, 48 hours, 60 hours. So it's a lot easier to just remove that.
And so fasting is something we're gonna do, and it's just an aspect of how we're gonna of a health that some of the one thing that we're gonna implement moving forward, but like there are other things also when it comes to health, because I think we had initiated with health, huh?
We had initiated, yeah.
The topic.
Yeah, because and I know I mentioned it to you, but it was my wife who told me. She said, especially for me, she's all like, you're investing so much in your business, you're putting all this time, all this effort, you're investing long term. But then what about your health?
Yeah.
Like you're investing all this, but then let's just say 30 years or like 10 years, 20 years, like you get a health, condition. Like what then? Like you invested all this, but you're not investing in yourself. So I know, like I mentioned it to you, like, it's kind of true.
Yeah.
We're investing, like resources and time, and, to not enjoy it long term, like when we have kids. I know you have a kid, but in the future, when we have more kids, not being able to like run with them, not being able to do a lot of stuff with them, it's kind of like, yeah, we should probably change.
Yeah, because like you pretty much invest everything aside from your health. Like, yeah, you invest in your business, your career, and and that might be fruitful, but then like how you mentioned, like if your health isn't there's not a lot of stuff that you could enjoy.
Yeah.
If your health is bad.
Yeah, and fasting isn't the only thing we're gonna do to improve our health. I know one of the things we want to do is just to start running or start like actually doing cardiovascular activities, because all we've been doing up to this point is a lot of just lifting weights, and it's not lifting weights to get like big or whatnot. It's just like just to maintain, to feel good. Yep. But I know like something we're gonna start doing is cardiovascular, like I mentioned.
All right, and so pretty much that was the topic of today. And moving forward, we'll keep you guys updated on how our health is progressing, and whether the fasting works, and whether eating like a more high protein, high fat diet actually is beneficial, as it has been to so many. And so we'll keep you updated every 6 months or so, like on kind of like the health implications of what we're doing. Yep. And then and so maybe you could get some insight, and then based on everything that you do your research on, not just us, you decide to see what's best for you.
But with that being said, this has been another episode of Driven with Juan and Alexis. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.